Thanks very much for coming along. I'll be pretty quick. It's really just this presentation is just given, I suppose, a very small insight or brief insight, I suppose, into a small architect's practice based in Athlone. We've been on the BIM journey, I suppose, really since 2007, since we set up. But I'm looking at the last 10 years because that's when it really kind of began to kick off. A bit about us: we've been finalists in the local business awards. We won the ICE awards this year for a particular project. We're shortlisted this year for the CIT award for technical excellence. Projects we featured various national publications. We've advised on national standards, and we recently advised on the Roscommon Rural Design Guidelines, and some projects have been featured in it. So this was the big year. It is a big year for us, I suppose. That's us at the ICE Awards, and we worked with Technobuild and Tullamore on a deep retrofit project, which won, which was great. And then this is our project for that's up for the AT Awards, and I suppose the key thing here was building on what Louise Heaven, our local mayor and architect, said about adapting and reusing buildings. This was very much the existing warehouse was retained, and we developed around it and reused the building that was there, and then worked with Urban Volt to create a very strong PV installation. And these guys were laughing during the recent electrical or power I suppose the increase in cost of prices. It's been a hugely successful project for them. So a little bit about myself. I graduated as an architectural technologist. I became a chartered AT in 2011. I've master's in design management. Been involved in QQI. A registered architect since 2016. I'm a fellow CIT, and I've been an external examiner. I just mentioned a couple of them there on numerous architectural technology courses. Our current projects include housing development in Portlaoise. We're architects for analog devices in Limerick. We're doing a couple of hotels, offices in Mullingar, and various other projects. We're involved in a lot of off-site modular construction as well. And just I suppose that's just a couple of projects there that are of particular note. We're involved with Shane Lowry's pub in Tullamore. Just a couple of a quick few projects that we've worked on there. So there's housing, nursing home in Dublin. These are the offices in Mullingar, and then this is one of our biggest projects. It's currently a planning 80,000 square foot facility for analog devices in Limerick. It'll be a mix of offices, residential, gym, lab, social spaces. And I think one of the key things about this project again is building on that, not demolishing. The only structure, there's an existing building from the Limerick, what would have been, I suppose, Shannon development in the 1970s in Limerick, and we've adapted and built around it. The only structures being removed were a couple of warehouses, that very basic portal structures that were around it, and they're going to be demounted and reused elsewhere. So on our BIM journey, this is probably one of our key projects. It was Rathbone Square in London. It was the first time we got to really be involved in a BIM level 2 project. We were working for an Irish contractor who was providing I suppose the full suite of services for the 20 social housing units, and then about 10,000 square foot 8,000 square foot commercial back of house space. So this building, it's long finished now, and Facebook are in it and stuff like that. So it was a huge learning curve for us. Worked with MAKE Architects. Lendlease were the overall construction managers on it. There was an entire BIM team from them, and we were the BIM managers for our client and integrating with them and working with them. And it was really, I suppose, our understanding, adoption at the time of BIM that got us into that project, into that space. So I suppose just some of the key stages 2007 was let's use Revit, let's give it a go. It came free with our Autodesk license for AutoCAD. 2010, 2014, it became fully integrated into the office, and AutoCAD very much became a support tool. In fact, it was probably earlier than that. 2015, 2017, the Rathbone Square London project became our first level 2 BIM project involvement. 2018, we worked on Centre Parks with working again, another great learning curve, working with the BIM team in CISC. And in 2019, we started to implement the ISO 19650 standard into how we fully work in the office, as opposed to just I suppose kind of instead of BIM just being on project specific, we kind of made it a more universal part of the company. Some of the things I just, when I was looking at this presentation for today, just to kind of take things back a step, I just thought it's important to look back. When I did the Masters in Design Management, a couple of really key documents always stuck in my mind, and it was Rethinking Construction by the Egan Report, as it's commonly known. Came out in 1998, and before that, the Latham Report, Constructing the Team, 93, and Project Managers, I think, pretty much came from the Latham Report. But it's just, I suppose, I still see, like, these are 25, 30 years old now, and yet we still come across a lot of the problems. And, like, you know, it resonates then with what the chap from BAM was saying today about value versus price. And like this is just an extract from Egan, 25 years old. And, you know, clients are undiscriminating and still equate price with cost, selecting designers and constructors almost exclusively on the basis of tendered price. The tendency is widely seen as one of the greatest barriers to improvement. I don't think there's anyone here doesn't experience that. You know, we've priced recently for a project, and, you know, we said we can add the value, can do this, can do that. We knew we'd been more expensive, and we haven't heard a phone call, or, you know, we haven't heard them since. But that's parcel of the whole of the business, I suppose. But I think that the issue I would hold with that client is they weren't seeing the overall value as opposed to just the bottom line price. And I think, you know, this has to be part of the digital journey. And these are, I suppose, early influences on my journey. And again, the integrated project process. One of the key things, Egan and Latham, it wasn't until the arrival of BIM, I suppose, that we could unlock some of the real changes that they propose in those documents. So we've adapted, I suppose, on our BIM journey, we've been adapting to new workflows. We've been automating the reviews and authorization process, which has been, I suppose, one of the most important things. And, like, we've been able to apply that then to other, I suppose, roles. We've been acting as design certifiers on a number of projects. Our consulting, we're involved with the power station in Monksland, and one of the things we're able to do is to adapt a digital workflow to that, whereby there's a Turkish and international based design team designing the building, but because of BCAR and our rather, you know, quite an unusual process, they need local consultants to review the information, make sure it's going to comply with BCAR and meet that. So we're part of that process. What has happened is we're using ACC to integrate the review process across between Ireland and Turkey. Look, it's nothing groundbreaking, but I think for a small SME, it's of 8 people, it wouldn't be possible without it. It really wouldn't. So we've been exploiting BIM 360 and now Autodesk Construction Cloud on all our projects pretty much, for doing, you know, issuing and reviewing projects. So particularly during COVID, we really it fast tracked it onto every project that we would. The guys were working remotely. They prepared drawings, submit for review, and then the various senior people in the office would review the information and accept, reject, what have you. And it just speeded things up and made, I suppose, I don't think remote working would have been really possible without it. We've just, again, simple things. We're small practice, adapting the office. The ISO naming conventions is very important, and then upskilling the team to the workflows that we're implementing. We've tried to make the inner workings of our office to reflect a typical task team, no matter how small or large the project is. And that's just helping with our quality control and ISO 9000 compliance. So it's an ongoing adoption process. Some projects apply it more than others. I think it was alluded to in the ISO 19650, and what was mentioned earlier is that it's about applying what you need to the projects. We're trying to bring clients and consultants with us on our journey, not for everyone, and sometimes we are joining others' journeys as well. There is an appetite amongst some progressive small AC firms to implement the standard, the ISO 19650 that is, and the Irish Annex distills this and relates it back to common stages in the Irish context. There's just a couple of images of that project out in Monksland. So it's a fairly substantial and very engineeringly complex project. For us, it's just a big shed, to be honest, that for architecturally, that's what it is for us, but the engineers have plenty to do there. So again, on our BIM journey, I kind of refer to BIM tiered, and it is coming back to this whole idea that ISO 19650 is there. If you're not working on sometimes you need all of it. Sometimes I'm a firm believer you use what you need. And it's not every project has to be all IFC and Uniclass and containers, etc. But if you're starting out in this journey, start with the naming conventions, get a TIDP, have a common data environment, and I genuinely believe it's worth the investment. And it is an investment. It is expensive to purchase ACC or whatever, Dalux or whatever the system you want to use. They're not cheap, but I'm a firm believer that. Having tried the whole thing with using Dropbox and the various different things, and yes, it maybe works in a one-man show or a two-man show, but when you start to get a little bigger and you have more consultants, making sure you're on top of that data, I just don't think it's possible. The use of purpose codes to ensure the correct data has been used at the right time, and if Slim are just using elements of ISO 19650, be sure to implement them correctly. So just try and do it. If you're doing it, do it right. And ultimately, this is about getting the right information to the right people at the right time. So what are the easy bits of our BIM workflow? The naming conventions, that's very standard. It's interesting, over the last 4 to 5 years, the more you start working with other consultants, the more the data is now coming in that format. And it just makes, it's amazing when you're used to seeing it, you can very quickly understand the data. One thing I'm noticing is, you do need to have, and maybe it's just the fact that there isn't maybe a strong BIM management protocol from the very start or when we come into it, but very often we are seeing whilst the format is the same, the starting containers might be different, so there isn't an overall project code and things like that. So there are things, we really need to start pushing that there is, I suppose, a BIM execution plan, that someone is putting that in place at the earliest stage. Approvals process, as I mentioned to, we've aligned those to ISO 19650, and it helps with our 9001 certification. We're using spatial management and clash avoidance, so we model, like even on basic houses, we model ventilation systems. I would equate that to what Bam mentioned around value. Like, it is a bit of time to model a ventilation system that comes in from your from one of the MVHR companies, but it does identify issues that can come up on site, and it's just, there's nothing worse than you arrive on site and the builder's looking at you and there's pipes going where they shouldn't be going and all that sort of stuff. So just take the bit of time and get it done, and give yourself that bit of comfort on it. Then spatial scheduling of rooms, areas. One of the things we use in housing, again, we set up a calculation for purge ventilation requirements, and again, it goes part of our window schedule, and we have it there, and it puts the onus then on the window companies to make sure they're complying with that, and checking travel distance for fire, all now automated. There's just an example of recent lighting study. Yeah, grand lighting study we did on a project, so I'm going to jump on, and that's an example of ventilation on a house. It's been very positive. We've managed, it's helped us go into larger projects as well as manage smaller projects more efficiently, and we haven't learned enough. We need to fully embrace ISO 19650 is really important, and the journey is constant. I am just going to flick on because I have one little thing I want to talk about. Common data environments are brilliant, but there are so many. And we're having problems in projects where every single element has a different common data environment provider. We need to get on top of that. Interoperability of software isn't the issue we're having, it's interoperability of common data environments. And you know, you can have the best architects, engineers, software, etc., but if the right people aren't seeing the right information at the right time, then it's a waste of time, money and carbon. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks,
Sorry.